Yeah, they cut you right on the floor, huh?
There we go.
You remember that? Yeah.
Are we ready? I'd like to welcome you to our Planning Commission meeting tonight on June 10th, 2025. We'll begin our meeting today with an invocation given by Commissioner Doan and then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Thompson.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful to gather in this great community and grateful for the opportunities that we have here, and pray that we can make the best decision with the information given in all things presented, and that we can have calmness and good discussion throughout. For these things we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will the audience please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin our meeting with an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call is dismissed, or is excused. I didn't say dismissed was the wrong word. Excused this evening. Mike Marchbanks.
Here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
Steve Johnson. Here. Scott Thompson.
Here.
Jared Showers.
Here.
Karen Danielson is also excused tonight. And then Ryan Doan.
Here.
The next item on our agenda is an approval of the minutes from our Planning Commission meeting held on the 13th of May. The commissioners have received these minutes beforehand and has had a chance to review them. Are there any corrections that need to be noted on these minutes? I have only one, but the only thing I see is on the recorded votes. Commissioner Callis was left off the on each one. I mean, he makes the motion sometimes, but he's not recorded in the ayes.
Good catch.
It was all, if I remember right, all motions carried unanimously, so he just needs to be added as an aye on all those. Is that correct, Commissioner Callis?
Yes, that is.
Okay. That's the only thing I saw in the minutes. Anybody else have any corrections? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes with that correction.
I'll motion.
And I'll second that motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting is unanimous. The next item on our agenda, item 3, is a time for public comment. This is a time for anyone who's here that would like to address the commission on a matter that's not on the agenda. This is a time for them to comment. Is there anybody here for that purpose? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4 of our agenda. Item 4 is an ordinance amendment. So we will have a public hearing. Just for those here to know the process, we will go through and have the presentation by the staff and the applicant, and then we will open it up for the public hearing after we're done with that presentation. This ordinance is Ordinance Amendment 17.44.090, projections into yards. The applicant is Nicholas Slade, and if you're here, you can come sit, and anybody else that's here with you. And then presenting staff is Mike Florence. And we will turn the time over to Mike to lead us through this application.
Thank you, Commissioners. So Nicholas Slade has made application on behalf of Ms. Finkers, who lives at 276 140 North. This came about because, here's a aerial photo. Ms. Finkers would like to add a porch. You can see her steps here in this aerial photo. She would like to add a porch covering those steps. It is north facing. She's worried about ice and just the weather. The issue arose is because, let me pull this up here. Her setback, if you go from the property line to the home, you're about 30 feet. And so our city ordinance, here on your screen, 17.44.0902A, says, depending on the size of the yard area and setback, the structures listed below may project into a minimum front, side, or rear yard not more than the following distances. And it says the following may project into a minimum front, side, or rear yard not more than 24 inches, cornices or eaves. So our ordinance only allows you to project 2 feet for an eave that overhangs. And so she's applied for an ordinance amendment for a porch to extend 8 feet into that front setback. Let me go to her photos. This is her home here. And you can tell she's already got that 2-foot overhang on the eave there. And then here's her building, our site plan. So the columns would be about 6 feet 6 inches, and then to the edge of the porch here would be about 8 feet. So that would leave her about a 22-foot setback from the street. And so we couldn't approve this the way the city ordinance is currently written. So she did file for this ordinance amendment. I'm just going to go to street view real quick. Let's see, and I think I had to go to a different date for a better picture. Okay. Yeah, so here's the home. And I believe this was her previous home. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's her son owns that now, and that's actually an older photo.
Yeah.
That overhang, the porch. There it is.
Yeah.
It's even larger now.
And so this one does encroach into the front setback.
But it looked like already, that's when our aerial looked like this one did as well.
Yeah, whatever happened, when it did, but she's trying to follow the ordinance now and address that issue. And so, yeah, this 23 one, I guess you can see it right there. So she's filed for that application to amend the ordinance. I just put some information together for you to look at other cities that surround us, kind of what their projections allow. It's kind of all over the place. 4 to 5 feet is kind of the average as you're looking at that. Ogden allows for a 10-foot overhang and the columns to be at 8 feet, but I couldn't quickly determine what their front setback is. But most of them are between 4 and 5 feet for most of those projections, with a 30-foot front yard setback. So, and then I did include Ogden's ordinance just so you could see what they had in their ordinance. I did not prepare an ordinance for you tonight because I wasn't sure the direction you wanted to go on that. If we just want to say 8 feet or whatever that number is, then I can write that up when we come back, or you can continue it, or you can just move it forward and have me prepare the ordinance for the city council, whatever that discussion is. I also included the setbacks on the front setback, just in case maybe you wanted to evaluate the front setback. And if you wanted a different number you know, for the front setback or not. But 30 seems pretty standard with a lot of communities.
Front and rear, correct?
Front and rear,
Is 30, is typically 30.
yes. Rear is also 30. I didn't include the other cities, but for Lindon, it's 30 in the front and 30 in the back. So that's what they're proposing. The applicant probably can go into some additional detail when you're ready to hear from them.
Do the commissioners have any questions for staff?
I do.
Okay.
So if we approve this tonight, 8 feet. it
Let me
does not-
have you pull that mic just a little closer.
I'm sorry. If we approve that tonight to go out to 8 feet on a 30-foot setback, that will not affect in any way the setback requirement,
No.
just the, and is there a maximum size on the porch overhang?
And that's probably something we need to discuss as well. If you look at the Ogden code, they allow it to go
All the
along
way
the whole
across.
front of the single-family home to encroach 10 feet.
I think that gives it the appearance of the whole thing encroaching into the setback. Whereas this, covering a porch does not do that. So maybe we need to say so many feet wider than the sidewalk or the approach or something related to that, so it's not.
Or a percentage of the front?
Percentage
Of
of
the
the
front.
frontage, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, and what's unique about this property, I think, is really important. They're not just covering their porch, they're trying to cover their stairs. I imagine it's a nightmare to try to keep the ice and stuff off those steps in the morning, you know.
This is it's my wife's grandma.
So they need to have you in, let's let the chair, he'll
Yeah, and when it is time, we'll have you turn the microphone on. But I guess, so for Commissioner Thompson's question, we will have the applicant answer. So if you go ahead and turn that on, you can
and
ask.
then if you'll say your name.
State your name and,
For the record.
My name is Nicholas Slade, and Slade Group General Contracting, that's our company. We actually did her last remodel. It's my wife's grandma, and now she's wanting to get a overhang over her porch.
I guess to address Commissioner Thompson's question, I'm assuming the main reason she's doing that is to keep the snow and ice off the stairs.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
Do you remember, Nicholas, the width of, did we include that? No.
Of the home itself?
No, that porch, how wide
Oh,
it is?
I didn't have that on these plans, and actually that can be adjusted to fit if there is able to be an amendment made. We're willing to adjust our designs as needed to fit into that. The main concern is projecting over those concrete stairs at porch.
And this will, I think you need to look at is this ordinance applies citywide, right? And so you'll just want to consider that as, but most properties do have a 30-foot setback.
I know in my neighborhood, there was another issue, there was another property, there was an issue with when they went out and put their porch on, but they went from the porch and then they went to the left to sort of make it somewhat of a wraparound, or, I remember at that time they were within that zone and the city came to them, so, and I know it was quite a nightmare for them trying to justify that at that time, so, and it looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't deter from the neighborhood or anything to have these.
Any, any more questions for staff? If not, then we'll say, is there anything else the applicant would like to say on this application?
Paul Slade, Slade Group. I just noticed in the city code ordinance, it does call for, it talks about fireplaces, structures, and bays. I don't know if this can be considered a bay. It's not a bay window, but it's somewhat of a bay structure, provided they are not wider than 8 feet. So, we could accommodate that ordinance, I think, pretty easily. I don't believe the stairs are more than 6 feet wide, or around there. So we could easily cover them under the 8 feet width.
So with that, Mike, could they do it under?
Make the change?
So you could recommend a change that it be certain depth
But
by.
we still have
by
to make
width.
an ordinance change because it's coming out 10 feet, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and it's been properly noticed, so, yeah, so.
Yeah,
I made the ordinance general enough that if you wanted to make some additional changes like the width, we don't have to rehold the public hearing and-
Right.
and
Yeah,
things.
I know we've been trying to do away with discretion, but like, we can't say 8 feet with an exception by the commission. They want to do away with that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? You know, I think we have the option of looking at, of the frontage, do we want it to be a percentage of the front of the house, right? We could say limited to 25%, or, I'm just throwing numbers out. I don't know anything. I don't even know whether that would work. But just so that it doesn't, or else you could have someone add if we do the whole length of the house, you have someone add a front deck that comes 10 feet out that basically cuts our setback to 20 feet.
yeah, sure.
Essentially, right, by doing that.
And see, it's interesting, this particular property was built with the old code built in mind, so somebody could come along and do that same thing in the future, could come along and go, oh, as long as the walls are 30 feet from, we can
Yeah.
add 10 more feet of overhang on this house, and then
Right.
that would clearly look like it was a,
The setback was different, yeah.
Yeah, it was an intention.
I like the idea of going up to 25% to a percentage of, you know, because.
Of the frontage of
of
the
the
home.
frontage of the, frontage of the home.
So this home, 75, it's 75 feet wide, so you're looking at 18, just a little over 18 feet for that, would be that 25%.
And that would be well,
Where this is
more
gonna,
than enough.
where this is gonna be citywide, I think we need to give architecturally the flexibility to let it match the home, and that percentage, I think, would let it float,
Yeah.
you know, to a degree good enough that I think it could look good on any home.
yeah, and in this situation, it would even
Yeah.
allow it to come out, and maybe a small porch to the right or left type thing could even fit into that 18 feet.
Yeah, but then, again, whatever, you know, they can do it smaller. I just think
Right.
if we're looking citywide, you know, that we, if we're gonna change the ordinance, we do it to where it would accommodate architecturally and look good on a variety of different home fronts.
Yeah, because I would, yes, and I'd say it solves the problem I have of just saying, oh, we're basically getting rid of a 30-foot setback to a 20-foot setback by doing that, so.
Maybe even a suggestion would be to say that you could not come out more than 30% of the setback, and that it couldn't be wider than 25%
Percent of the width
home.
of the home, yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
as it applies to other homes throughout the
Yeah.
community,
I like that.
you know,
If there's been an exception to
If
setback.
this was new construction, we would still insist that it's within the 30-foot setback, or does this change?
No, this would change the new construction as well, the way I see it.
Yeah, because your setback would be the
Yeah.
house, the walls.
Most people with a porch, what they've done is that's where they start their porch is at 30 feet, you know, on,
But if someone came and
little.
pushed it,
The steps are different than a porch, maybe,
Yeah.
especially if you've got a house that sits up higher, then the run of your stairs is gonna be longer.
yeah, we don't go off the stairs, we just go off the structure.
Structure, but if it's covered stairs.
So here's a question that maybe we could address too.
Jared, I don't think your mic's on.
I love the idea of covering walkways. I think I've seen so many dangerous situations with this, but we've got basement entrances, you know, steps that are excavated out to get into the basement. Do those steps have to be within the normal setbacks, or can those encroach into a setback? And then when you talk about covering those,
They'd be a projection
this-
too, but they're typically on a side yard, yeah, we can maybe,
it's only gonna be.
well, they could be
4
a,
to 6
they
feet,
could
yeah.
encroach into a side, front,
Yeah.
or rear setback.
that's why it's,
We already have a side yard, exception, let's see.
solve all the problems with one ordinance change.
And was it 8 feet depth or 10 feet depth?
Well, this is 8 feet
This is 8.
plus 2 feet of overhang.
Oh, I see.
What's a standard overhang is 2 feet, well, at least an older standard overhang, and newer ones seem to be much shorter, you know.
Yeah.
They seem to be more either 0 or 1
Yeah,
foot nowadays.
Yeah,
But in general, steps that would go down, whether it's in the back or the side,
Right.
those need to be within the setback, or can they encroach into the setback?
Well, this ordinance allows them to encroach into the setback.
So right now, in our ordinance, if you look at, letter C, so it allows you to encroach 4 feet, but you, let's see, 4 feet as long as they're uncovered. So it allows someone to encroach with like a, what do you call that? More of a pergola type thing, 4 feet. Or you can do the side yard too, that's unenclosed stairways, balconies. Yeah, so you can encroach 4 feet, but it can't be covered.
So is this gonna affect that?
No,
No,
We're just looking at front yard, right?
not unless we
Not unless we-
intentionally wanted,
Not unless, I mean,
yeah.
what's the reasoning for, why would we argue that, oh, you can do this on the front, but you can't protect your steps in the back? Why would we?
Well, somebody could bring another ordinance change, but sometimes it's simple, more simple just to address,
10-foot
in this
side,
case, the front
Then you
setback.
come out 4 feet.
Oh, right.
You don't wanna cover the.
Okay, so we could say,
Now-
so you could apply this to front and rear yard
now
setback,
we already
which is
have a
typically
rear,
the
we already
same.
have a rear one. It says, let's see, the structures listed below may project into the rear yard not more than 12 feet, a shade structure or uncovered deck.
I like the wording for Ogden, they seem to cover a lot of stuff. Walls no higher than this, and it has to be facing, the street can't come up and go into the side. So there's a lot of, I thought that was sort of well-written, except for there was one section that, minimum of 4 feet, maximum of 10.
Yeah, they've got a minimum of,
A minimum of 4, so I don't know if that was necessary, but.
sorry, where
We
did-
could also write it in a way such that it has an exception to be longer for stairs, for having stairs there. If we, I don't know. I don't know what the advantage is of basically changing our setback to 20 feet. It's not the whole building, it's not the whole structure, but visually, as new buildings get built, they'll be closer to that 20 foot, right? With the porch there.
They won't, will they?
The 25% wide porch could be as close as 20 feet setback, right? If we're saying, yeah,
Yes.
That's not the setback of the house.
it's not, no.
No.
I'm saying visually, it's more like a 20 foot.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, because developers could
Well,
take
and
advantage of this.
you know what, and that's why we gotta put a maximum limit on it, that 10 feet, because like Jared said, if somebody stuck a 2-story out of the ground and wanted to cover all the stairs, a
Right.
full flight of stairs coming out the front, then
Yeah.
the 10 feet don't work.
Something
So-
that the height, or the width and the depth would be sufficient to cover the steps, a maximum of 10 feet
10
or something
feet,
like
yeah.
that. And if they can't do that within 10
And it
feet,
still
then,
keeps their foundation back at the 30-foot setback. This is just really a projection, that's how it's described in the ordinance. I like the idea of architecturally having a little bit of flexibility there,
But
to,
the projection would be from the foundation or the wall, not the
Exactly.
overhang.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
if they can't do that within 10 feet, then
Yeah.
they gotta,
But the reason I like this, there's a lot of older homes in Lindon that this would benefit. I'd much rather see this be a possibility than seeing, people like the Vinkers having to go live somewhere else when simply
yeah.
you could make that a safe situation for her.
I think it's a great upgrade for
Yeah.
people.
I heard the 25%. Were you thinking 8 feet still, or did you extend that to 10?
25% of the width of the home.
25% of the width of the home.
I'm okay with that, but if you guys have some other suggestions.
Does anybody have heartburn over the 8 feet and I still allow the 2 feet overhang? Or are we just gonna say 8 feet including overhang?
8 feet or 10 feet?
Well, the way the Ogden's is written, it's 10 feet to the post with the 2 feet overhang.
I think we should say,
10 feet including the overhang, or?
30% of the setback from the foundation.
That limits it at 10 feet.
If it's a 30, it's
Yeah.
9 feet,
Yeah.
but it's just fine.
Yeah. Some houses don't have overhangs.
Right.
10 feet enough for this situation? I can't remember, yeah.
So percentages on both is what
Yeah.
Commissioner Callis is recommending.
I like that.
Now, at Rob's home, it's got a huge front yard setback, so you've got 200-foot setback.
Well, maybe the lesser of
Well, that's not.
actual setback
Yeah, it
or
wouldn't even-
ordinance
it wouldn't
setback.
apply.
But he's not
wouldn't apply
encroaching
to-
the setback.
It wouldn't
in that
apply
situation.
to,
Well, he could do whatever he wants. He can, because
that's the way I see it. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I got a 50-foot setback on my home. I got a big, long driveway.
you could add on the
I
front.
could add onto it and stay within.
Most people wouldn't do that.
It's not encroaching into the setback, because the
It's not,
setback
yeah.
is 30 feet, and you're
Yeah.
way back, so that doesn't matter. He can
Right.
bring it all the way out to 30 feet plus 10.
He could put on a big old porch.
He can put a walkway all the way out to the
In
street.
Mike's situation, you could put a 20-foot porch, well, you could put a 30-foot porch on your,
Yeah, I already got
front
a
of your home.
15-foot one, so I
Well,
don't need a
yeah.
bigger porch, but
He's got a
again,
50-foot
it's,
setback.
again, it all goes back to the 30-foot minimum.
1/3 of 50 is 30%.
So we're going off of the,
I would say the ordinance setback, because if it's not gonna encroach on the setback, he can,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
it doesn't
think it all
matter,
applies to the minimum setbacks,
right?
which
Because
is
if it's
ours
not
is
gonna
30.
encroach, then,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm okay.
yeah.
right? Because if it's not gonna encroach into the setback, then they can build it anyway,
Right.
as long as it
They
meets
can
other
come and do,
code.
they can do an addition into that spot, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't say anything to them, so why would we worry about a projection?
So I guess the only time that it would make a difference of what the actual setback is if they're non-conforming. If they're non-conforming, then it's actual setback.
and if they're non-conforming, they've got to come to you for approval anyways.
Right. So that's the only time it would be different than the 30% of the ordinance setback is if they're non-conforming, and then we'd have to look at what 30% of what the actual setback is. Is that,
I like using the percentages, because again, like Rob said, a lot of the new homes being built today don't, or maybe it was, somebody.
Scott,
I think it was Scott
Yeah.
that said that they don't have an eve at all. You know, there is no eve, and, so I think we do everything off of the 30-foot minimum foundation.
and just do a percentage?
Yeah.
And I'm good with 30%, or if we wanted
Yeah.
to stretch it to 33 to try to get the extra foot.
I-
But
yeah.
probably just 30 to make it easy.
Yeah,
30. I like it.
What-
So,
Do you want to?
I guess this gotta go
Let's
to,
hope maybe open up the public hearing, and then I've got
it's
some,
gotta go to city council, I guess.
so let's just ask, let me ask just a couple procedural questions.
yeah,
Because you asked, we don't have an ordinance for us to review.
yes.
We have suggestions. We can open the public hearing. Are we okay, and Brian's not here to recommend something to the city council that hasn't been written?
I think we're recommending to staff to write and then come back to us.
But, so that would be a continuance,
Yes,
to have it come back to us?
yep.
I mean, I think we've got great ideas, but I don't know if we can move it forward without seeing the language of the ordinance.
I think
Does
that's
that
wise.
sound?
Yeah, I like that. We give staff the charge with going forward with what we've decided here and
So-
come up with the language for that ordinance, and I think it,
So procedurally, I think we like the ordinance, and we're gonna recommend staff to write something, but to get the procedural part done, let's go ahead and have the public hearing part of this meeting so that we can meet that requirement. So
I make the motion to open a public hearing.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The voting is unanimous. The public hearing is now open. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to address us on this issue? Either recommend something that we've left off something we should add to staff to do?
Mike, have you got anybody online watching the thing? I move we close the public hearing.
You've also got a custom home builder over here that, I don't know if he's got any advice, if he likes that.
No, I actually think it sounds really good. The only thing I might suggest is just labeling what projections are.
Okay.
Clarify what the projection is.
Yeah.
And since you're here, just because you made a comment, can you state your name for the record?
Am I good enough? Scott Dent.
Yeah. Did we get that, hopefully?
Yep.
And he'll be probably presenting in a while, we can get it again, but just for the record.
I like that.
Okay, is there
What the projections are.
Is there anybody else that has any suggestions or recommendations from the public? Okay, well, if I hearing no more,
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The public hearing is now closed. So,
Like a lot of cities will say that your porch is allowed, you know, you can still got the eaves for 24 inches, these other things, and then they'll specifically say a porch is allowed to encroach this many feet. And so,
If the porch came out from under the covering, that would be okay, is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying they specifically call a porch out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then in this situation, they called it the porch in Ogden, and they specified it can't have walls, it can't have, so that it is just
A porch.
a
I-
porch.
I think maybe the best thing to do is to have Mike restate to us what we think we've told him, and then
Yeah, I like that.
then after that, if we feel good about that, then we should probably have a motion to continue this to ask staff to write that. So, let's go ahead.
Have 25% of the width of the home, and then 30%, it can project 30% of the front setback,
That's maximum.
maximum,
Both of them are maximum.
yeah.
And then the suggestion to just define what a porch or projection or whatever is, so that,
Hey, Mike, I got a question. I just don't recall, I built in so many different cities, that, do we allow on a corner lot, a person to call their front, the side, the front, and the front, the side?
You're kind of got two front yards.
So we don't allow a different setback regardless of which way they face their home on a corner lot, do we?
No, they still have to have 30 and,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes it simple, I guess.
They have 30 and 30, but they can also have two side yards that are not necessarily on both sides, right?
Our ordinance, I need to go in and fix some things on it, but it's basically two front yards, so.
if you're on a corner,
if
yeah,
you're on
they
a
both
corner.
are 30 feet.
Yeah,
See, a lot of cities, if you got a 20-foot side setback, you can make your front 20 feet off, and, and then go 30 foot up. You can call your side your front yard, and it can be 20 feet off the street.
yeah. I have that information if you want to see it. I put it together as part of this table. I just didn't include it in the table. But as part of my research, I just, if you want to see it for next meeting, you can, but,
I know
I have that.
several cities have it, like on a corner lot, you have a 30 and 30, and then your other two can be the side setbacks, like 10 and 10.
Yeah.
See, our corner lots are 30, 30, 30, and 10. So you gotta have
That's
a
a lot of
30-foot front
setback.
yard,
Yeah.
30-foot side yard, 30-foot rear. and 30
It's,
foot-
yeah.
Come look at my house.
Is that what yours is? 30, 30, 30,
Well,
and 10?
I mean, just a sad story is when we were building, the builder didn't really do a good job of laying it out. So I got a call the morning of and said, you gotta cut 4 feet out of your house because it's only 26-foot setback on the side. Or else we're dumping the cement. So I had 10 minutes to say, cut 2 feet out here, 2 feet out here. So that's why I know that the ordinance in Lindon is 30 and 30. Wow. So, but, okay, to go on then, well, I guess to ask the applicant, we are gonna continue this so that it can be written. Is that gonna be a hardship if this takes another 2 weeks? Okay,
And we need to talk about that date, so I'll have to that's one of the items I have.
so I just wanna make sure we're not getting a hardship by doing this, but we wanna get it right for the rest of the city. We want you to do it right, we wanna do it right. Okay, perfect. With that, is there any other instructions would like to give staff before we continue this?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion that we continue this, item number 4, and give staff the, request to come back with an ordinance amending what we've discussed tonight, so we can look at it and vote on it then.
I'll second that motion.
okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I had my dates mixed up, so I will bring it back on the 24th.
Okay.
Okay.
Any opposed? That voting is unanimous. We'll continue it, and so, so Mike, that is the 24th?
Yeah.
That we've asked staff to bring us back a written ordinance for us to vote on at that time. And then once we look at it and approve it, it will move on to city council. Thank you so much. We will move on to item number 5. Let me get there. This is a conditional use review of a single-family home addition on the Hillside Protection District at 62 South Denali Circle. The applicant is Scott Dent. So we will, and we've got Mike Florence here to present for us again. This is an administrative decision, so there will not be a public hearing, and it does not need to go to city council. So if the applicant wants to come up, and then we will turn the time over to Mike to present.
We really appreciate Mr. Dent working with us and performing the geotechnical study and having this evaluated further. You can see from this front cover on the geotechnical engineer, they had a lot of excavation to do, and then they, if I read the report right, I think they went down below where the footing would go for the boring samples on that. And so just as a reminder that the Hillside Protection Zone is anytime there's a lot that has a slope of 20% or greater, that, you know, our ordinance comes into play. So IGES did the, or SC, IGEC?
Yes.
Yes. I'm getting it confused with AGEC. They did the geotechnical study. They came back that there were a number of recommendations. Let me go through the findings first. That let's see, they did find some groundwater seepage was observed in the lower part of the excavation. The geologic hazard risk associated with the landslide, surface fault, rupture, rock fall, debris, flows/flooding, and liquefaction hazards is considered to be low for the proposed addition, which is good. The geological hazard risk associated with the shallow groundwater is considered to be moderate, and they've provided some recommendations on some foundation drains to take care of that issue. The structural engineer also provided a letter stating that all structural calculations have been performed in compliance with the requirements contained in the report. And so the structural engineer reviewed the geotechnical report and doesn't see any issues with his recommendations. So recommendations from the geotechnical study, and what I did, these were the top 3, the main 3 recommendations. In the report, there's also a number of other reports and a lot of other recommendations found in the report. We'll go through a few of those as well. But again, I already kind of covered this one. But 1, to reduce the shallow groundwater hazard risk to the acceptable level, it is recommended that a foundation drain be installed beneath the proposed addition to accommodate any groundwater seepage. I think in the report it said it could have been maybe a sprinkler line or something that was leaking, but just in case, this was a recommendation.
Could have been a sprinkler drain line. It caused something like that to happen.
Yeah. Next one, proper building design according to appropriate building code and design parameters can assist in mitigating the hazard associated with the earthquake, ground shaking, review and considerations of the FEMA document for avoiding earthquake damage, such as strapping water heaters to wall studs and installing flexible gas and water lines to reduce the risk of fire and water damage in the event of earthquake is recommended. And then third, shallow, spread, or continuous wall footings constructed entirely on competent native earth materials. I don't know if I need to read all that, but it's highlighted in your staff report here. Couple other items.
Looks like they went lower than the footings.
They,
Got
yes.
down there.
Let's see. There's some other foundation recommendations in here. They say we recommend that IGES assess the exposed foundation, subgrade prior to the placement of steel or concrete or structural fill to identify the competent native earth materials as well as any suitable soil or transition zones. So they would like to be on site for that inspection. Let's see, there were some other ones with landscaping. Let's see. So we recommend that desert or xeriscape landscaping be considered within 5 feet of the foundation, that rain gutters the downspouts be directed 10 feet away from the structure, the irrigation valve be 5 feet away from the foundation, that the grading be at least graded away 10 feet from the home. Let's see, pavement section should be constructed to divert surface water away from the pavement into storm drains. And so there's some additional recommendations within the report itself. Let's see. So as we went through this, city engineer did not have any issues, building official did not have any issues as well, as long as the report is followed from the recommendations in the report. So city staff did recommend approval for the home addition at 62 South Denali Circle with the 8 conditions outlined here. 1, all geotechnical engineer recommendations outlined in the engineer's report dated May 30th, 2025 shall be followed. Inspections outlined in the report by the geotechnical engineer shall be conducted and inspection reports provided to Lindon City. The residential structure will comply with current building codes. Updated plans incorporating the recommendations from the geotechnical engineer. Geotechnical and structural engineer shall be submitted for final approval. Mitigation measures outlined in the Lindon City Ordinance 17.57 Hillside Overlay District and adopted interpretations be incorporated into the final design of the project. Compliance with fire code and fire flow requirements shall be met. And they did provide fire flows for this, and they've come up with a design to accommodate and meet those fire flow requirements. The landscape plan will be updated to meet the recommendations as found in the geotechnical report. And so they did provide a landscape plan, but it needs to be that xeriscape for the first 5 feet. And so we just need to tweak that landscape plan a little bit. And then the city ordinance does require a written statement by the landscaper or another qualified person or firm will be submitted to the city before final approval. The statement must address any vegetation problems, further stating an opinion as to the viability of the proposed plan to mitigate or eliminate such problems in a manner as to prevent the hazard or life or property, adverse effects on the safety, use or stability of a public way or drainage channel, and adverse impacts on the natural environment. So I just need a letter stating from the landscape architect or someone qualified saying, hey, we feel like this is a good landscape plan that meets your ordinance and won't cause any life safety issues with the landscaping. So, and then just all items of the staff report.
Does the commission have any questions for Mike?
Looks like they did their homework, they're ready.
Anything that you'd like to add to the presentation or?
The only question I have, Mike, is number 4, what we gotta update the building plans and structurals, like there's nothing to update there.
I think it was just that footing
already-
drain or some, I don't know if that needs to be in the building
I don't
plans or
think
not.
that needs to be in the building at
Okay.
all. That doesn't need to be updated at all. So,
And this is just more if there's anything that needs to be updated according to this geotechnical study, then those would be
Right, and the engineer signed, the structural guys, engineer gave you the letter saying it is updated, it meets the requirements, so there's
Yes.
nothing that needs to be updated.
Okay, yeah, the building official, Bryce, he was already gone on Friday, and I'm trying to get this report out, and so I just wanted to make sure if there wasn't anything that still might need to be updated, so. So we could change that to say, you know, if the plans need to be updated, they would, you know, that they'll be updated, in case I've missed anything from the building official.
I submitted this in January.
Anything else from the commission? So on that, would we just amend item 4 to say
You know
updated
what,
building plans if needed?
I think we leave it as written, because if it's done, it's done. If something needs to be done, the builder will want to cover his butt and have it changed anyway, so.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no other discussion, is there someone that'd like to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to construct a single-family home addition at 62 South Denali Circle with the following conditions, all items 1 through 8 as read by Mike Florence.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Good luck with the building. Okay, now we'll move on to, I think the only thing we have left is our reports, is that right?
Quick question. He came to us a couple of times ago.
Just once.
Was it for the site plan?
It was for no, it was just, what we asked them to do last time was, we gave them approval just to do the
Excavate to
excavate.
He got permission to excavate without the building permit.
Yeah.
And we gave him a building permit just to excavate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is now to build.
So the soil report could be, the geotechnical could be
All
done.
right. I was just wondering
Yeah.
why he didn't apply for this last time. I signed it.
This wasn't completed yet. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of excavation to there, so.
Okay. We'll move on to item 6, which is our community development director report and reports from commissioners.
Yeah, one thing, our meeting in July, I need to miss that meeting on July 15th. I'm hoping to have a planner hired by then, but I'm just wondering if there's a possibility to move it to the 8th or the 22nd that month. We just meet one time in July.
It'd probably be safer to move it to the 8th, maybe,
Yeah.
than the
For me,
22nd.
for the eighth, it's good.
I will be gone for sure on the 22nd.
We could do the 8th.
I will be gone, this is July 8th we're talking,
Yeah.
I'm gone on July 8th, but
I think there's probably just a chance more of us would not be available that week of the 24th,
Okay.
possibly, who knows?
So you want to add it to the 8th?
Yeah, if that's okay. Okay. And then the other item I had, so let me pull this up really quick. And this is just, I'd like your feedback on, actually, let me go here. We're going to go to our commercial design standards. This last page in our commercial design standards that we all love.
Yes. Color police.
Yeah. I have had more people just painting stuff white lately. And we don't allow, you know, it's traditionally we don't allow white as a allowed color for commercial buildings. We allow it as a trim, but we typically don't allow it white. So I've had, like Lindon Nursery, they just painted that white. The,
The barn.
where the Evans event, or not, Evans School, hair school,
Yep.
they just painted that white. And the ladies that just took over both those buildings, they're like, those aren't white. And,
What are they?
so here's white, here's extra white. So
I know this white with black trim is becoming very
it's very
in vogue.
popular.
It's
So
very
here's-
popular.
You know, here's alabaster. One of them told me, we didn't paint it white, we painted alabaster. You know, and then the other one said, no, I didn't paint it white, I painted it Medici ivory. And,
There are literally 1,000 whites.
It's 1,000 whites with a name other than white.
Yeah.
So is that light blue, not blue?
That's seafoam green.
They're off-whites.
Robin egg.
I think
They're definitely off-whites,
Yes.
except, you know, you get into extra white, then that's white. But
Yep.
those are off-whites, but anyway.
and so I'm just wondering, is it time that we maybe look at this,
Allow white.
you know,
commercial buildings are being proposed white more now than they used to be.
even this little Oz development, two-story building, he said it wasn't white, it's white. You know, and
I think it'd be
I think
almost
white's fine.
easier to permit shades of white than try to say no white. You know,
Yeah.
What is white?
Right.
Maybe we have a color palette that shows whites, but it doesn't include bright white or white.
extra white
Well-
or bright.
What was the history of this color palette? Where did it come from?
It's
you know?
just, it was adopted as part of our commercial design standards 2 decades ago, probably. And,
Earth tones were
Yeah.
popular.
And I've always argued that white was an earth tone. The white cloud.
There's white rocks.
White sands, Nebraska, New Mexico.
you look at Walker Farms, they don't have to comply with the commercial design standards.
Because they're
Because they-
in the farm zone,
Yes, because they're in the farm zone.
unless their new building makes them out of the farm zone.
I
With
tell
their
you
new build, their new barn, which is probably not a barn.
Personal.
I'll tell you what, I would not be opposed if we just allowed white to go on the color palette.
I don't care either.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind adding a palette of whites, but maybe eliminating white.
So it's not the
Bleach
extra
white.
white, but maybe the alabaster and the Medici
Yeah.
ivory.
Stark
or-
white.
Yeah, just maybe just no stark white. And here are some samples of,
I've never understood it anyway.
So I think that the trend is going to that. Like my building official said, give it a year and it'll be, that bright white will be paint, you know, one of these other colors.
Yep.
You know, from all the dust and everything, so.
And then we've always made exceptions for Home Depot and Lowe's and people who have their corporate colors anyway.
Uh-huh, yeah. Like Holiday Oil, we did have them change the roof color a little bit
Yeah.
from
Can you
bright
bring
red.
back a white palette that we can look at and add to this? Okay.
So,
Colors are a hard thing, because they do go in and out of style, so.
and I may want to change the picture too, because you look at the color palette and you got this bright white barn on there.
Yeah,
You know, surrounded by earth tone colors,
Yeah.
but you got a bright white barn in Park City, so
well, aren't those just last two bars? Those are both whites. They're just too white to see.
just too white to see.
Yep.
Awesome.
So I think we're open. But whatever, we'll let you worry about what paperwork needs to be done to make that happen.
Okay,
That will make us less of the color police than we have been in the past.
yeah.
Slightly.
how are you coming in your search?
Good. I've had better applicants I'll be honest, than I've had in the last 6 years. Like, I loved all my planners that have been here, but the 6 I've had now are all very qualified, so now I just have to figure out, you know, I've done 10, I'll do one more interview tomorrow. I could hire 6 of those 10, and they would all be great, so. So we just need, and now I think it's gonna be tough to choose. I'll probably do a second round and see where that goes.
Good luck.
Yeah. So,
That's great to hear.
yeah.
Mike, I know Karen was concerned about this meeting being gone because of possibility of stuff going on 700. Do we have any updates on anything that's going on at 700? I heard there was a possibility of a north going under contract or something,
Of a what?
of the north side going under contract?
It is under contract, but we don't know with who.
Okay,
They've
they still
never-
don't have any information.
No. Should I talk about,
But I can recall.
should I talk about the big
Oh,
box?
the other thing, oh, should you talk about?
I mean, that's official,
Oh, how official is official?
official. I mean, we've, so Costco was pulled out. So their CEO came in town about a week and a half ago and toured the site by himself, walked through the Lehigh store and the Orem store, said he's worried about cannibalizing, this store cannibalizing those two, and he's worried about the economy. Said they would possibly look at it later, but right now he's pulling out, so. He's he's pretty new CEO, he's been there about a year, and so Costco's broker talked to them, or got the word from him, and then went and met with him in person, said, look, I've provided you all this store, we warrant another store right here. He's like, I just don't feel good about it, and he has the final say. So,
There was an interesting article that was published, I don't remember where it was that I was just reading. Just talks about their strategies, and I can see based on that article, if it was credible at all, that he just considers other strategies for helping to reduce the busyness of these two stores rather than
so yeah, that was heartbreaking,
That's disappointing.
yeah. So.
We
we're
drug
gonna-
it out too long.
I don't,
Or maybe not,
Possibly.
maybe not.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know if he would have made the same decision a year ago or not, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We're, yeah,
Yeah. The rank and file is actually liking this guy better than the
Right,
former.
exactly.
he started out as a forklift driver
Yeah.
for Costco, so.
So, have you pulled permits or anything for the, on the north side for the
Sports
sports
facility?
complex?
No, not yet. The plan they brought to us, for as part of the development agreement, well, when he got down to the nitty gritty, his architect said, oh, well, this actually won't work. I thought you could, so he's had to redesign his entire building, and now he needs to do precast because the original building was a steel building, but he's like, well, I guess there was a miscommunication between them, because the owner's like, well, I can't have poles right in the middle of a building for basketball and volleyball, and so, yeah, so he's redesigning that. I think he's close. There's some changes to the exterior a little bit, but it's fairly close. So Castlewood, we're gonna meet with them in a couple weeks. A lot of their ownership are out of town. That's the developer has the south side under contract. They still want to stay involved, but we'll have to see. That's
So
something,
even though Costco's pulled,
they're still interested, so.
Go after a Sam's Club,
yeah.
tick them off.
I'm tired of driving down to South Provo.
My son-in-law runs the busiest Costco in the world, and that's 21st South.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's the largest, most,
That was huge.
it's because it's the business center built in with a regular Costco store, which it was a trial, and they decided that's way too big. So they've not done any more of them, but that's 21st South. It's the largest in the world.
Yeah, if the broker believes it would fund, it would work here, he could sell that same thing to Sam's Club.
Yeah,
Rapping, I'll get wood off Costco.
Yeah,
Hey.
you won't get, yeah.
Take that out of the minutes. I want my kids I got 2 kids that are store managers. I wouldn't want them to be on the record saying that. Yeah,
okay.
but that's what I'd do.
My couple questions questions. Going for a walk down through Songbird Cove the other day. Any regulations on parking? With the curb the way it is, there's no painted curb, but like on corners, they're parking on corners. I mean, all the way around, parking's already, it's not fully sold, and, I mean, you know, that's just cars everywhere on corners on.
So maybe what we do is we recommend that the fire department go in and look at giving us some red striping where they think it's appropriate.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So there just might need to be that look, because it's more cars on the street than,
Well, more.
than it can hold.
okay.
I mean, it's just,
Normally red stripe a corner, though? I mean, none of the corners in my neighborhood are red stripe.
It depends on whether the fire department chooses,
Well,
whether
whether
the
it's
fire
a-
department chooses, they need it.
if it's an
If it
intersection or not.
encroaches, it,
So it's
for their
not,
turning radius.
it's not necessarily
They could.
an intersection where you have the setbacks that they have to park away from, but just, and then I believe I heard that, Councilman Hooley talked to you about the, for sure one, accessory apartment in Songbird Cove, and that one is legal.
Yeah, so what the state legislature did about not this past session, but the session before that, let me,
And I guess my question there, did they pull a building permit and everything and do that? Because there's
think they
outside
did.
stairs and,
well, that I don't know. I need to check on the building permit.
okay. I mean, that's just my only question is originally we said there couldn't be any, but my understanding now is that there are 3 or 4 lots that meet
The
the
home lots.
in the home lots that meet the requirement. But once again, my only question there is, doesn't the ordinance say that the parking has to be behind the front setback of the home?
For one spot,
Just one spot.
yeah.
Well, and that would be my question, is do they have that or not, too?
Yeah,
Just-
So remind me what it was that, because that we could restrict without getting crosswise with the states.
yeah, so the state came in and said you could, this was in probably 2022, if that's right. 2022, they came in and said you could take 25% of your community and restrict ADUs in 25% of your city. So we did that in 6% of our community. We took the Anderson Farms, the Fieldstone, and then the single-family homes at Songbird Cove. Those were the 3 areas where we said you couldn't do ADUs. So if that's,
But it sounds like there's something that trumps that.
so this is that section right here in letter F.
We're not seeing anything on the screen.
Oh. Let's see what happened to it.
That's his bank code.
I don't even know what that is. I have to text my wife. Let's see. Okay. Oh, nope, that's the wrong one. Okay, so the state code used to just say that the city could prohibit the creation of an internal accessory dwelling unit within a zoning district covering an area that is equivalent to 25% or less of the total area in the municipality that is zoned primarily for residential use, and that's where it would stop. In 2022, that's where it stopped. And then in 2023, someone who probably had a subdivision plat recorded in 2021, it was a legislator that was probably upset, added, except that a municipality may not prohibit newly constructed internal accessory dwelling units that have a final plat approved on or after October 21st, 2023. So
Opens it wide up.
yeah, so then they added that section going backwards 2 years.
And now it's opened up from
And
there
now,
forward.
so if you have a lot that's right here, 6,000 square feet or larger, and the plat was recorded on or after 2021, we have to allow, so, I mean, you could even, we don't promote this, but even some of the Anderson Farms lots and Fieldstone could have those down there.
Well, most of those were recorded before that.
Those were, yes. Sorry, Fieldstone, I would say no. Yeah, you're correct. Thank you. But Anderson Farms, there's a couple phases down there that could have those. Yeah.
I was at a ward social the other night, and I had a few moments with the mayor, and she was discussing that she had a meeting with the governor. She went up and met with the governor, and he flat out told her, "We're coming after your zoning." And so,
Yeah, they invited 48 cities to a luncheon, and then he pretty much let all the cities have it, saying, "Get out of the way. We need to allow more housing." So,
yeah, so they've been trying.
yeah.
Each session, they've been trying to eliminate our residential zoning, but
Yeah, I mean, the threat was made, hey, Texas just got rid of all single-family zoning, and Montana got rid of single-family zoning. Maybe we should be, and there's some parameters to that. But, sorry, they're allowing single-family zoning, but they put in a density of 15 units to the acre for smaller lots, single-family homes.
I think the problem with that is here we have a lot of lots that are even minimum 20,000, but we have a lot of bigger lots. Well, that home goes up for sale, it's gonna be prime property for that developer to come in, we wanna put apartments there.
Or smaller lots, single-family
Or
homes.
smaller lots, or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
so.
So they didn't get rid of single-family zoning, they just said, here's your density you have to have now.
And I guess I'm not opposed to the ADU as far as, I mean, I don't know how anybody gets a house without some help in Lindon now, but it's just the parking. I mean, just to add to the parking problem that was created there, the ADU is just gonna create more parking problem unless we enforce that they have that off-street parking and stuff that we need.
I only know of one, so if you know of others, if maybe we can
There's just the
talk.
one, and then
Okay.
it looks pretty legal, because they have the address numbers on the side of the house, and it's one of the larger lots up near the top.
Yeah,
So,
I think I remember that one getting approved,
and so I think it's approved, but
yeah,
if I hear of more, I mean,
yeah.
And as new
Like-
construction goes forward, we need to make sure that if this house looks like it's gonna be an ADU, let's make sure we have the
Yeah,
parking and everything designated for it.
yeah,
I would like to be able to count it when we report to the state
That's
that we're
right.
doing things, right?
Yep.
So,
We're reporting everything, aren't we?
we are.
we
Yep.
hopefully are now. So.
And it sounds like from that meeting too, that every year I've got to do a report on our 5 moderate income housing goals. It sounds like they're going to blow that up next year at the legislature and re-adopt a whole bunch of different goals for housing. So we'll see where that goes.
But yeah, if you could look at, I mean, it's just once again, those houses are so close together, and
Yep.
you walk there and there's cars everywhere. And
It's
that's
gonna be
just-
a nightmare, and they're not full wet streets really.
And they're not full wet streets, and they're not done selling them all. I think they're close to being built out, but
I think they've got a couple townhomes left is all.
is all. So.
Yep.
But that's, so, I'd mentioned the one ADU, and I think it probably is on one of those lots that's legal.
Okay.
But just wanted to see if the biggest thing is if we can get as much
Parking.
parking off the street as possible.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything to bring up? Oh,
Rob, you brought that issue to us a couple weeks ago. Did that had to go to city council, right?
With the
did it-
flag lot?
And it, okay.
okay. If there's nothing else, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned.